Good morning and welcome to YouTube channel of Lucky Institute of Professional Studies. I, Mamta Arora, Assistant Professor of IT Department, will be telling you about OSI reference model, which is used in computer networks. OSI reference model was given by International Standard Organization in 1984. It tells us about what needs to be done during the transfer of data from one system to another in a network, and it will not tell us how it has to be done. Right now we know that we have 7 layers of OSI model, but how these 7 layers of OSI model evaluated, it came into existence, or how was the evolution of 7 layers of OSI model. In the very beginning, when the data was being transferred in the network, we had all the things like the hardware and the software on a single layer. We just had a single layer which consisted of hardware also and software also. So every task was intervened in a single layer. So it became very cumbersome when we had to transfer a huge amount of data. So what we did is we divided it into 2 layers. The hardware and software layer was divided into 2 parts, which came to be known as technical standards and application standards. The problem was that the load was increased when we had a single layer. So it was divided into technical standards and application standards. Now here all the technical things like signaling and routing were handled by technical standards, and the application layer was concerned only with the user interface and how the file has to be sent in the network. So both the things made it little easier, but still the problem persisted. So next we tried and introduced few different layers. What these layers were? Application layer remains same, and the next layer was divided into physical, data link and network layer. Which was divided? Technical layer. It was divided into physical layer, data link layer and the network layer. Let us now see about the physical layer, the data link layer and the network layer. Physical layer describes the physical aspects. Physical layer was responsible and it describes the physical aspects of the network. What physical aspects? That is, which are the cards, wires, or it will be wireless transmission, and it also was responsible for topologies. What is topologies? Topologies is how the systems or the devices will be connected in the network. What kind of arrangement will be there for the systems. Then data link layer. Data link layer is divided into 2 parts. One is MAC layer and other is logical link layer. MAC layer is responsible for the physical addressing of any system, and logical link layer is responsible for logical addresses, that is our IP address. Third was the network layer, in which standards were explained, that is there were few standard methods for operating between various systems, that is nodes. Next, to make it more easier and to increase the quality of service, the transport layer was introduced. Transport layer helped in a good quality of service, and variable levels of data had integrity so that the quality of service remains good. Now, to give some more important points, we needed dialog control and dialog separation, like session, how the session will start, when it will stop, where all the details will be stored. So for that Next layer was introduced, that was session layer, and it was responsible for dialog control and dialog separation, which is in turn required for synchronization of message. Synchronization means when the message is transferred from the sender to the receiver, then it also gives the checkpoints to see whether the data is arriving on the node or not. Next, the 7 layers of the OSI model. The last layer which was introduced was the, after the session layer we had presentation layer. Presentation layer, why it was required? The required was for the management and security purposes. We saw physical, data link, network, transport, session and presentation layer. First of all, we had hardware layers. First 3 layers are known as hardware layers. Transport layer is known as heart of OSI model, and the above 3 layers are known as software layers. Because the last presentation layer was helping us in management and security. This was the evolution of all the 7 layers of OSI model. Now let's see all of them together. All the layers together, how it works. Starting with the application layer. What application layer helped? It gives end user the application access. Various applications were used with the help of application layer. It provides network services such as when we are sending any files, we are sending any emails, then we are doing it by application layer, like mail protocol, vs SMTP. There are various protocols which are used on application layer. One among them is simple mail transfer protocol, which helps us in sending our emails. Next, coming to the presentation layer. What does presentation layer does? Presentation layers gives the format of the data, how data has to be sent in the network, how the data has to be sent in the network. It also gives the data structure, that if we want to store the data, how it will be stored. And it also negotiates the data transfer syntax. For every work which is being done on the layers, there are few rules and regulations. So that are known as syntax, that how the data has to be done. Plus, it will also ensure that the data has to be in the readable format. Next comes our session layer. Session layer is responsible for inter-host communication. What does inter-host communication means? That whenever we have to send the data, first we need to establish connection, then we will be sending the data, and then we have to terminate the connection. So all this is done on the session layer. It establishes the connection, manages and terminates sessions between the application. It is a 3-step process. First, you have to establish a connection, then you have to send your data, and thirdly, after the data has been sent, you have to terminate the connection. Then we have the transport layer. What is the function of transport layer? As we saw earlier, transport layer is heart of OSI model. Session, presentation, application layers were the hardware layers. Physical, data link and network are software layers, and the transport layer is heart of OSI model. What will it do? It will be helping us for end-to-end communication. How? It will solve it will gives the purpose of reliability, then it will also maintain and terminate connections. It will helps us for diagnosis the fault, because once the fault is diagnosed, then only we can recover it, and smooth flow has to be done in the network. It will also be taken into consideration by transport layer. We have protocols used here, that is TCP and TCP/IP. Transport layer basically uses two protocols. One is TCP and one is UDP. TCP is Transmission Control Protocol, which is known for its reliability, and it is connection oriented protocol, and UDP is User Datagram Protocol, and it is connectionless protocol. So now receives into from upper layers and segments it into packets. What it receives the data from the upper layer, and now it segments it into packets, and it also helps in error detection and correction. There are various algorithms which are used for error detection and correction. Next layer we are going to discuss is network layer. What network layer does? It provides the addressing. Here, the addressing is logical. It is not physical. Physical address is in data link layer, and here we have logical address, that is, we can say IP address. IP address is responsible for logical addressing. Now, the best path will be found, because in network we have various ways to reach from source to destination. Now, among those various paths, we have to find the best path so that time consumed is less and our work efficiency increases. So, to find out the best path, network layer will be helping us. The term used here is routing. We can say routing is performed at network layer. So, network addressing. Next layer we have with us is data link layer. Data link layer places the data and retrieves it from the physical layer, and it provides error detection capabilities. It will help us to access data from the physical media and transfer the data across the media. Now, in this layer, we have various network topologies. Network topologies is the arrangement of system in the network. There are different network topologies, like in LAN, we have star, ring, bus, mesh topologies, which any of them can be used to transfer the data in data link layer. Next comes the physical layer. As we all know that in computer system, the data which is understood by the machine is binary, that is 0 and 1. So, all the binary transmission is done on the physical layer. The physical layer helps us in cabling. It also helps in data encoding, that is bits to wave, and the examples are, we have Ethernet standards like 802.3, we have token ring, that is IEEE 802.5, and if we want to send our data without using any wires, that is wireless connection, then we can use the standard IEEE 802.11b. Let's see all the layers together now. What happens is, we have PDUs, that is protocol data units. Starting from the first, what we have is all the data. We have peer-to-peer contact on all the layers between the corresponding layers. Now, the data is handled by the starting three layers, first three layers, that is application, presentation and session layer. Till here, we have data. Now, next, the network layer places the data into packets. Now, the network layer, our network layer, what it will do? It will place the data into packets, and then the data link frames and packets from the transmission layer. Now, here the data is converted into packets. Then data link layer will convert it into frames. Lastly, physical layer, it converts into bits, that is 0 and 1, and then the data will be transferred through media over the network. The receiving computer will reverse this process. We started from here, and at the receiver side, the process will be reversed. It will be starting from physical data link layer and the process will be reversed here. So all the information in the PDU, that is protocol data unit, the process will be reversed at the receiver side. Now, this was the technical aspect. Let us understand this by a postal analogy, that how if we want to transfer or if we want to send any letter to a company in foreign country, how we will do it? Suppose I have written 20 pages and the person to whom I am sending or the receiver to whom I am sending, the recipient, is not able to understand my language, then how it will be done? Using the OSI layer, we will understand this. Firstly, I have written the 20 pages letter to a foreign country. So, the presentation layer, what it will do? It will translate this letter so that the receiver can understand it. Next comes the session layer. What session layer will help? It will ensure that the intended recipient for whom I have written this letter can receive it. Then transport layer, it will help in segmenting. That is, it will separate the number of pages, like the registered tracks of registered mail, what will be the track of delivery, and it will request another package if any of them is lost or damaged. Then comes the network layer. This is known as postal center sorting. It will sort the letters according to the zip code to route it into for further destinations. As we saw that the process or the task of network layer is to route the packets to different nodes. Then comes the data link layer. It will act as a local post office, determining which vehicles to deliver the letters. And last comes the physical layer, which will tells us which physical media needs to be used, like physical trucks, planes, rails, to send the data. So it was a simple analogy to understand our OSI reference model. OSI model was a reference model on which we got a practical model, that was TCP/IP model, that we'll be discussing in our further classes. Till then, thank you.